I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because what's happening inside the walls of Dodge Correctional Institution right now, it's something that should terrify every single person watching this video. Chris Watts. The name alone makes your skin crawl. The man who took everything from Sean and Bella, Celeste, and Nico. He's been living in isolation, protected, separated. But 3 weeks ago, something changed. The Aryan Brotherhood, one of the most violent prison organizations in American history. They didn't just find him. They approached him. And what they want, nobody saw coming. Before we go any further, I need to tell you something important. Now, before we dive into what's happening behind those prison walls, we need to remember who this is really about. Sean Watts, a devoted mother, a loving wife, a woman who built a life filled with hope. Bella Watts, 4 years old, full of life and laughter. Celeste Watts, 3 years old, still learning the world. And Nico, who never got the chance to take his first breath. 4 souls. 4 lights extinguished by the one person who was supposed to protect them. If you're watching this, and your heart breaks for this family the way mine does, type Amen in the comments right now. Let their family know they're not forgotten. Let them know the world still stands with them. Now, I'm going to be honest with you about something. As an investigative reporter, getting information about what's happening inside these prison walls, it's nearly impossible. My sources are limited. Records are sealed. People are afraid to talk. But when you subscribe to this channel, you're not just hitting a button. You're giving me the resources and the backing to dig deeper, to find the truth that others won't report, to hold people accountable. The more support this channel has, the more doors open, the more questions I can ask, the more truth we can uncover together. That's why this community matters. That's why you matter. Now let me tell you what I've uncovered. When Chris Watts arrived at Dodge Correctional in December 2018, prison officials knew they had a problem. Child killers don't last long in general population. But a father who annihilated his entire family? There's a code in prison. And Chris Watts violated the most sacred rule. So he was placed in protective custody. 23 hours a day in a cell. 1 hour of recreation. Alone. No contact. No interaction. For 6 years, this was his existence. But here's what most people don't understand about isolation. It doesn't protect you. It makes you vulnerable. Because the longer you're alone, the more desperate you become. The more willing you are to accept any human connection. And some people, they know how to exploit that. Let me tell you about the organization that's now circling Chris Watts. The Aryan Brotherhood. Founded in 1964 at San Quentin State Prison. They represent less than 0.1% of the prison population. But they're responsible for 18 to 25% of all murders in the federal prison system. These aren't just criminals. This is a highly organized military-style network that operates with one purpose: power. They have reach, they have resources, and they have patience. So when I tell you they approached Chris Watts, you need to understand what that really means. I want to ask you something before we continue. Do you think a man like Chris Watts, after 6 years of complete isolation, after losing everything, would he be capable of saying no to the first people who offer him protection? Who offer him community? Drop a 1 in the comments if you think he'd resist. Drop a 2 if you think he's already compromised. Because what I'm about to show you, it's going to challenge everything you think you know about this case. Here's what I've been able to piece together from 3 separate sources inside the prison system. March 14th. Chris Watts is in the recreation yard during his 1 hour of outside time. He's alone. He's always alone. But on this day, someone else is there. Now, the fact that another inmate was in that space at the same time, that doesn't happen by accident. Schedules are controlled. Movements are tracked. Which means someone on the inside, someone with authority, arranged this meeting. The inmate's name? I can't release it. My source's safety depends on confidentiality. But I can tell you this. He's a high-ranking member of the Aryan Brotherhood, and he delivered a message. According to my source, the conversation lasted less than 4 minutes. But in those 4 minutes, Chris Watts was presented with an offer. Not protection. That's not how they operate. Information. You see, the Aryan Brotherhood has been watching Chris Watts, studying him, and they've noticed something that the rest of us missed. His mail, his visitor logs, his commissary records. Someone on the outside has been supporting him. Someone with money. Someone with resources. And the Brotherhood wants to know who. Now this is where it gets disturbing. There's a theory circulating in the true crime community. One that law enforcement has quietly investigated but never publicly confirmed. What if Chris Watts wasn't acting alone? I know what you're thinking. The evidence was clear. The confession was detailed. He acted alone. But here's what doesn't add up. The financial transactions in the weeks before the murders, the encrypted messaging app on his phone that was never fully recovered, the witness who reported seeing a second vehicle near the oil field, the timeline gaps that were never explained. The Aryan Brotherhood believes someone helped him, or knew about it, or benefited from it, and they want to find out who. Why? Because information is currency in prison. And if Chris Watts has information about someone powerful on the outside, that's worth more than gold. I'm going to show you something that's never been released to the public. But before I do, I need to say this. The reason I can bring you this information, the reason I can spend months investigating, interviewing sources, analyzing documents, is because this channel has grown into something bigger than just me. This community has become a force for truth. And if you're watching this right now, if you're invested in finding answers, you're already part of that. The button below this video, that's how we keep growing. That's how we keep digging. No pressure. But know that every person here makes this work possible. Now, let me show you what I found. Here's what terrifies me about this situation. And this is bigger than Chris Watts. This is about the direction our prison system is heading. When we allow organized criminal networks to operate with this level of sophistication inside our corrections facilities. When high-ranking gang members can orchestrate meetings with high-profile inmates. When information can flow freely between the inside and the outside. We're not running prisons. We're running criminal universities. In the last 5 years, gang recruitment in prisons has increased by 34%. Violence against correction officers is up 47%. Organized criminal activity originating from inside prisons has doubled. This isn't just about Chris Watts being approached. This is about a system that's breaking down. One that's becoming more dangerous every single day. My investigation led me to contact 7 different former correction officers. Only 2 were willing to talk on condition of anonymity. What they told me was chilling. The Aryan Brotherhood isn't just operating in Dodge Correctional. They have networks in 39 states. They communicate through coded letters, corrupted officers, and even smuggled cell phones. And Chris Watts? He's just one target in a much larger operation. They've approached other high-profile inmates. Other people who might have valuable information. Other people who are isolated and vulnerable. This is systemic. This is organized. And this is growing. So where does this leave us? Chris Watts has 3 options. Option 1. He cooperates. He gives them information. He becomes an asset. If he does this, he gains protection, access, community. But he also becomes complicit in whatever the Brotherhood is planning. Option 2. He refuses. He stays silent. He continues in isolation. If he does this, he remains a target. And the Brotherhood doesn't forgive. They don't forget. Option 3. He reports this to prison officials. And if he does this, well, there are some things worse than isolation. I need your honest opinion on something. Do you think Chris Watts deserves protection from prison gangs? Or is this just karma playing out in real time? Comment, protect, if you think the prison system has a responsibility to keep him safe. Comment, karma, if you think he's getting what he deserves. This is complicated, and I want to know where you stand. In all of this, in the prison politics, the gang activity, the investigations, it's easy to forget that this story started with a family. Shanann's parents, Frank and Sandra Zuzek, have had to live with unimaginable pain. Not only did they lose their daughter and granddaughters, but they have to watch as Chris Watts continues to make headlines. Every article, every video, every update, it reopens the wound. I spoke with a family spokesperson last week. They declined to comment on the Brotherhood situation specifically, but they did say this: "We pray that justice continues to be served, not just in the courtroom, but in every aspect of Chris Watts' life. He took everything from us, and we have to trust that some form of accountability will follow him forever." That's the real story here. Not what's happening to Chris Watts in prison, but what continues to happen to the people he left behind. This case also highlights something we don't talk about enough. How does a man like Chris Watts, no criminal history, no warning signs visible to law enforcement, how does he become a family annihilator? I've reviewed the case files. I've interviewed forensic psychologists. I've studied the patterns. And what I've learned is this: we missed the signs because we weren't looking for them. The control, the deception, the double life. These aren't sudden developments. These are patterns that build over years. And our systems, our social services, our community networks, our support structures, they're not designed to catch this kind of evil until it's too late. That needs to change. Because while we're focused on what's happening to Chris Watts in prison, there are other Chris Watts out there, living double lives, hiding in plain sight. And the next Shanann, the next Bella, the next Celeste, they need us to do better. I want to ask you something. How many people do you think are watching this video right now who have someone in their life that makes them uncomfortable? Someone whose behavior doesn't quite add up. Someone who seems too perfect, too controlled. If that's you, trust your instincts. And if you're someone who wants to be part of preventing the next tragedy, of supporting channels that investigate these cases, that hold people accountable, that refuse to let victims be forgotten, you know what to do. This isn't just entertainment. This is a mission. And I need people who are ready to be part of it. Now let me show you what's happening right now. As of yesterday afternoon, I received confirmation from my source that Chris Watts has been moved. He's no longer in his original cell block. He's been relocated to a different section of the prison. Now, the Department of Corrections released a statement saying this is routine housing reassignment. But I spoke with a former warden who says that's nonsense. You don't move a high-profile protective custody inmate without cause. Something happened. Either a threat was made, or intelligence was gathered that required immediate action. So what happened? My theory, and I want to be clear, this is based on confidential source information that I cannot fully verify. My theory is that Chris Watts is now cooperating. Not with the Brotherhood, with the FBI. Here's what most people don't know. The FBI has been investigating Aryan Brotherhood activity in Wisconsin prisons for the last 18 months. They're building a RICO case, organized crime, interstate operations, corruption charges. And if Chris Watts was approached by the Brotherhood, he just became a federal witness. Now think about what that means. Chris Watts, the man who murdered his entire family, might be cooperating with federal agents to take down one of the most dangerous prison gangs in America. Some people would call that redemption. I call it survival. Because Chris Watts doesn't care about justice. He doesn't care about taking down the Brotherhood. He cares about staying alive. And if that means becoming a federal informant, he'll do it in a heartbeat. If my theory is correct. And again, I'm working with limited information here. This case is about to get much bigger. We're talking about federal indictments against Brotherhood leadership, corruption charges against correction officers, a complete restructuring of Wisconsin's prison security protocols. And at the center of it all, Chris Watts. The man who destroyed his family might end up being the key to dismantling one of America's most violent criminal organizations. Life is strange like that. Okay, I need to know what you're thinking right now. If Chris Watts cooperates with the FBI and helps take down the Aryan Brotherhood, does that change how you view him? Does that count as some form of redemption? Or is he still the same monster, just doing whatever it takes to survive? Comment, redemption, or monster, because I honestly don't know the answer to this one. This case forces us to ask uncomfortable questions about our entire criminal justice system. Should prisons be about punishment or rehabilitation? Should we protect inmates from gang violence, or is that just part of the consequence? Should someone like Chris Watts, who committed unspeakable evil, still have basic human rights behind bars? I don't have simple answers to these questions. But I do know this. A prison system that allows organized criminal networks to operate freely isn't serving justice. It's breeding more criminals. And when inmates like Chris Watts become targets, or informants, or assets, we're not running a correction system. We're running a crime syndicate with government funding. That should terrify all of us. One more thing before we wrap up. Shannon Watt's story has had an unexpected impact. In the 6 years since her murder, there's been a 67% increase in domestic violence awareness programs. Sales of home security systems have increased. Women are more willing to report controlling behavior. Friends and family are more willing to intervene when they see warning signs. Shannon's death was a tragedy, but her story has saved lives. And that matters. That's the legacy she deserves. We're coming to the end of this investigation, but I need to be real with you about something. Making content like this, it's not easy. The research takes months. The interviews are exhausting. The emotional toll of diving into cases like this, it stays with you. But I do it because I believe the truth matters. I believe victims' families deserve advocacy. I believe our systems need accountability. And I believe that when people come together, when communities form around justice and truth, we can actually make a difference. If you've made it this far in this video, you're part of that community. You're someone who cares. Someone who wants answers. Someone who refuses to let these stories fade away. So here's my ask. If this investigation mattered to you, if you learned something, or felt something, or thought about something differently, share this video. Subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment letting me know what you think. Because that's how we grow. That's how we reach more people. That's how we create change. Not through likes or views, but through community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. Now let me give you my final thoughts. Chris Watts approached by the Aryan Brotherhood. It sounds like a headline designed for clicks. But when you dig deeper, when you look at what this really represents, it's a window into a broken system, a dangerous direction, a future that should concern all of us. I started this investigation wanting to know what happened in that recreation yard. What I found was so much bigger. A prison system that's losing control, criminal organizations that are gaining power, and victims' families that are still suffering while the man who destroyed their lives continues to make news. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Remember Shannon. Remember Bella. Remember Celeste. Remember Nico. Don't let Chris Watts become the story. They're the story. And our job, as a community, as advocates, as people who care, is to make sure they're never forgotten. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. I'll see you in the next investigation. Stay safe out there. In memory of Shannon Catherine Watts, Bella Marie Watts, Celeste Catherine Watts, Nico Lee Watts. Gone but never forgotten.